Morning, everyone. My name is Sterling Higa, Chairperson of the Authority. I'd now like to call to order the February 5th, 2025 Kakaako Authority meeting of the Hawaii Community Development Authority. The time is now 11:07 a.m.
Thank you, Chair. In accordance with section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, the Hawaii Community Development Authority is holding today's Kakaako Board meeting virtually on Zoom. The Zoom link details were included on the meeting agenda. Therefore, members of the public are welcome to join us on Zoom and also at our physical meeting site at the American Brewery Building, 547 Queen Street, second floor boardroom, Honolulu, Hawaii, 96813. The HCDA communication staff is hosting this meeting. Once this meeting begins, everyone will be muted for clear audio. Board members, if you have any comments or questions, please unmute yourselves to speak. It is important that all individuals clearly state their name, pseudonym, or other identifier name each time prior to speaking. If you wish to provide oral testimony and you are attending virtually, please indicate so by clicking the raise hand button found on your Zoom screen. If you are attending in person, you will be called to the front of the room in the order that you signed up. All testimony will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. Your testimony must be related to an item on the agenda. Before you begin your testimony, we ask that you identify yourself and spell your name for the record. When 1 minute is remaining, 1 minute remains will be called out. When 30 seconds remains, 30-second remain will be called out. When time is elapsed, time will be called out, after which you will have 30 seconds to conclude. And then your audio will be turned off. If you're attending in person, the presiding officer will call the next testifier. Keep in mind that this is an opportunity to share your thoughts with us. If you ask questions during your testimony, neither the board nor the staff is required to provide an answer. If the authority's connection for the remote meeting is lost, the meeting will be recessed until the connection is restored. If the connection cannot be restored within 30 minutes, the meeting will be terminated and the authority will continue the meeting at another notice date. Thank you, Chair.
HCDA board members, please remain visible and audible during the meeting. Also, please acknowledge you are present by either saying here or present. Let the record reflect that the following members are present. Vice Chair Ishii.
Here.
Secretary Lidstone.
Ale.
Member Anderson.
Okay.
Member Strites.
Here.
And Member Sakota.
Here.
We have a quorum, Chair.
Thank you. For today's meeting, board members will have an opportunity to ask questions or provide comments after an agenda item has been presented. Individuals from the public who have requested to provide verbal public testimony on a specific agenda item are on standby and will be permitted to provide their testimony respectively. Moving now to agenda item number 2, approval of minutes. These are the regular meeting minutes of January 8th, 2025. Board members, are there any comments or corrections to these minutes? Seeing none, the minutes are approved as presented. Agenda item number 3 is decision making. Consider authorizing the executive director to 1, solicit a statement of qualifications (SOQ) from developers for the development of a mixed-use, mixed-income, affordable rental housing project on land owned by the Hawaii Community Development Authority (HCDA) in the Kakaako Community Development District (KCDD), located at 956, 958 Queen Street and 955, 957 Kauaiahao Street, and further identified as tax map keys TMK 2-3-003022 and 2-3-003094, Block P. 2, select a developer for development of the project, and 3, enter into a development agreement and ground lease with the selected developer for development of the project. Mr. Deepak Nupane, Program Specialist, will now present the staff report.
Thank you, Chair and board members. The staff report is in your packet. I'll just summarize it. The development of affordable housing has been a large element in the strategic plan and the position that the authority has taken. So I've kind of summarized that in the background. And also in 22, the authority did authorize the executive director to purchase Block P. And the intent there was to use that site for development of affordable housing, rental housing. And it's consistent with the housing plan that I have presented several meetings ago to the board. In the discussion portion, I provided some background on the projects that affordable housing projects that HCDA has done independently by itself or in conjunction with HHFDC in terms of providing land, providing low interest loans for the projects like Ali Kavila Place and providing land for art space labs and also for Ali Kavalo and also for the project in Cook Street. Yeah. No, Ali. A lot of these buildings are projects where low income housing tax credit projects that remain either affordable for either 65 or 75 years, depending on what the ownership is. If it's HHFDC, then they have the ability to provide a 75-year lease. HCD is still restricted to 65-year lease by statute. So the request in front of the authority is to put out an RFQ, and I had some feedback on that from developers, because typically we have done this kind of projects through RFP and ask for a design and all of that kind of thing and all, and particularly when we did the leasehold project, 99-year leasehold project RFP, we got no response. And when I followed up with developers on that, I think one of the feedback was that for this kind of project, especially for affordable housing projects, the developers don't have the time and the resources to put together an RFP because it costs money and efforts and all. So the feedback was you probably get a much larger response if you just ask for a statement of qualifications. And the statement of qualifications gives us a fairly good idea on what the developer has done, their qualifications, their ability to finance, put together financing for the project and their ability to execute the project, because there are only a handful of developers that do affordable housing, like take that kind of project in Honolulu. And there's some from outside, like for Nohonahale, we got a developer from Bronx in New York to come and do the project, and obviously with some partnership with the local developers. So the idea was to put out a statement of qualification and select a developer from evaluating the statement qualifications instead of doing an RFP. So provided some background there, and the outcome would be that the HCD would enter into a ground lease and a development agreement with a developer that's selected. And because this is an SOQ and we haven't asked for a design and all, HCD is going to have the opportunity to play a much larger role in design of the project too, and how and to the affordability and AMIs and all. The intent for the project here is not to really look for a light-tech project, because there have been a lot of low-income housing tax credit project that keeps the affordability at 60% and below. The goal here is to do a mixed income affordable housing project where, depending on the financing, the ability to go all the way up to 140% of AMI. It wasn't possible earlier, but now because of the changes that HHODC has made in its rental housing revolving fund, that tier 2 financing, where you can use that financing to go all the way up to 140% of AMI. And looking at the rents right now at 140% of AMI, there might be a possibility of bringing some private funding for the project too, because of the rents and all. So that's the goal. And it depends on how we get the response and things like that. So with that, that's basically my summary of the staff report. And if the board members have any questions, I can address those.
Board members, comments or questions? Member Sakota.
I don't have a question.
Oh. I had a question on the selection committee. How will that be composed?
The selection committee would be appointed by the executive director.
Well, I mean, more, executive director.
Yeah.
what is the composition of the selection committee?
I think the selection committee, so we have to, there's usually a approval that I have to give for the selection committee, but it would be internal.
It would be internal and then external too, if there is someone outside that agencies and all that we think has the expertise, like for example, it's just anyone from HSBC development. Branch staff. And in the past, the board board members had expressed interest in being in the selection committee, and in some of the projects, the selection committee did include board members too.
Open to it.
Got it. So if board members are interested in sitting on the selection committee, they could email you to express interest. Got it. Thank you. That's the only question I had. Members, any other comments or questions? Member Strides.
One quick question I saw on page 8 under the project requirements to provide space for community-based facilities. And then in our portfolio, we mentioned acquisition of a community site for community center. Is this?
I think, member strikes, I think that was a kind of a placeholder, you're correct, we are trying to acquire, some land for a community facility. But we also thought, maybe have a placeholder here in this particular project that if we found, a use for as a community facility, we'd also put that in addition to any other mixed uses. So I think it's just a place.
We have done that in the past, like Nohonaha, they usually try to get maybe a retail commercial on the ground floor, so it's mixed use. And also have the option of having providing community space. And we did that in Nohonaha, we did that in Kivalu. Unfortunately, at Kivalu, they haven't found a tenant. For Nohonaha, they found they're actually going to, developer was thinking of more on community art space, but they did find a commercial, retail store, that convenience store that we go in. So that's kind of, we use that standard language in the RFP, SOQs, to say that at least make the, whoever puts in a proposal or puts in SOQ, that kind of thing that we are thinking about. So.
Okay, thanks.
Members, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we will move to public testimony. Do we have any persons pre-signed up for testimony? Oh, sorry, Vice Chair Ishii, I didn't see you.
Yeah, Chair, I had, and I guess maybe for Deepak, if you may, I noticed the qualifications are very broad, and I know it's specifically made that way for the evaluation criteria. However, part of it is we need to ensure that whoever was selected, that they have the ability to underwrite a project of this size and able to gain the financial support to do it. There's been other projects in the past in Kakaako where the developer has gone through some financial difficulties, and the concern is that we don't want to be in a situation where a developer starts the project only then to not be able to complete it. So I know it's written very broad for a purpose, but I think I just wanted on record to say that part of the selection or evaluation, we should look into that as well.
Certainly, member, I think that's why that number 4, ability to assemble financing for the project, is weighted at 50 points.
Okay.
And this one is probably going to be a combination of some kind of a state affordable housing program plus private financing. So it's kind of a hybrid process backwards.
Cool. Members, any other comments or questions? If not, do we have anyone pre-signed up for testimony? Do we have anyone present in the Zoom room who wishes to testify?
No, Chair.
Do we have anyone in person wishing to testify? Seeing no testifiers, I will be looking for a long motion. Is the motion for the board to authorize the executive director to 1, solicit a statement of qualifications, SOQ, from developers for the development of a mixed-use, mixed-income, affordable rental housing project on land owned by the Hawaii Community Development Authority, HCDA, in the Kakaako Community Development District, KCDD, located at 956, 958 Queen Street and 955, 957 Kawaiahao Street, and further identified as tax map keys TMK 2-3-003022 and 2-3-003094, Block P. 2. Select a developer for development of the project, and 3. Enter into a development agreement and ground lease with the selected developer for development of the project, and 4. Take all actions necessary to effectuate the purposes of this 4 action. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Moved by member Sakota and seconded by Vice Chair Ishii. Members, is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, I'll ask Deepak to take the roll call vote.
On the motion, member Sakota,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ishii,
Yes.
member Anderson,
Yes.
member Sides,
Yes.
Secretary Linston,
Aye.
Chair Higa.
Yes.
Motion passes with 6 votes and 3 excused.
Great, thank you, Deepak. Agenda item number 3 is for information and discussion and update by HCDA staff on the Mackay planning and outreach efforts for the Mackay area of the HCDA's Kakaako Community Development District. Mr. Ryan Tam, who we haven't heard from today yet, Director of Planning and Development, will now present the staff report.
Thanks, Rick.
Hi, good morning, Chair Higa and board members. Just a brief staff report on the Mackay area planning, and before I start, I did want to note that in our Mackay area plan that we adopted at the end of 2023, so beginning of 2024, there is a map showing the land ownership of the different parcels. And so that's available, and there's a table also. So if if there are any questions about that. In terms of the Mackay area plan, so again, the current Mackay area plan was adopted in January 2024, along with our amended Mackay area rules. This was the first time that these rules and plans have been updated since 2005. And that planning effort, that adoption of the rules, was primarily intended to formally incorporate the 2011 Kakaako Mackay conceptual master plan, and also incorporate the land use restrictions associated with Act 317/2006, which, as you know, did restrict residential in the Mackay area based on community desires and input. This more kind of comprehensive planning effort for the Mackay area, Kakaako, again, is intended to primarily solicit community input on the future of this area. We're looking at addressing the changes in land ownership since the 2011 conceptual master plan, such as, the transfer of lands to both the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and the Department of Parks and Recreation. We're also looking to reassess infrastructure adequacy and also evaluate other environmental concerns, as well as think about climate adaptation and other issues. We're also looking, to the extent that we can, looking at our planning rules, looking at the entire Kakaako Community Development District in a kind of a more holistic manner. We started to align some of our rules in our last year's update with Mauka rules. I think we want to get it even more aligned and pull in some of the form-based code aspects from Malka into Mackay, which we didn't do yet. Yeah, no, we also want to consider kind of the role of Mackay within the context of how Malka has kind of rapidly developed over the last year. So when a lot of this was done in the previous years, right, Malka hadn't really popped yet. So yeah, so right now we're in the process, we're still negotiating with professional services consulting firm to undertake this effort. Initially, we're gonna look at existing conditions and conduct community stakeholder outreach. We have reached out to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to participate in this planning effort. You know, they are a major landowner and they have accepted.
That makes sense.
And yeah, I think in the future, we're also gonna be looking at, you know, big effort, looking at infrastructure, kind of getting everything aligned. Traffic impacts and other cultural and environmental issues.
Access.
Access to.
Yep.
So again, just brief update. Again, we're still on negotiating. It's taking a little longer than we had anticipated. And subject to your questions.
Thank you. Board members, any comments or questions? I see Member Anderson.
Hello. Yeah, I think there might be a high degree of public interest in this effort. And I would encourage the authority to put information that the public can understand on the website, if it's reliable information that we've done in the past, studies, and somehow maybe even in questions and answers, there seems to be a lot of confusion. And I think that would be very helpful to the conversation that's upcoming.
Yes, thank you. That's a good point. Well taken. And we'll look at presenting.
Maybe Member Anderson have a separate project website. Project area.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think we're definitely looking at very extensive community outreach. You know, when the Mackay rules were started, I wasn't part of the team at that point, but I know they were out at the farmers markets. It was very extensive. They worked even with the UH Community Design Center. I think Professor Dan Miltz, and they pulled them in. They had a caucus of Native Hawaiian practitioners to help shape some of the language in there. So I think in this effort, we're definitely looking at extensive community process. I think what you're talking about is maybe getting more of the history, and you know, there've been a lot of planning studies done over the years. And I think at our when I presented this at the board, I think I showed some images of some of the previous waterfront studies with the waterways that were planned through the area. So yes, at that point well taken. So we'll try to get that information on.
Thank you,
Member Schmitz.
Sorry, I might have missed this. Why were I guess the Kakaako district split into Malka and Mackay?
They were, you know, they were established at different times. I think when the legislature created the HCDA, it was in 1976, and the Malka area was established. Years later, when Mackay was added, it was just added at a different time, and it was just added as a separate district.
And I know it's grown and contracted. So I think previously, you know, it went all the way, you know, including the Pier 2. And it was like the.
But do you think it still makes sense to keep separate from the rest of the district?
I think that's, that's how it is right now. I think at least from a staff efficiency perspective, I think we would like to get a lot more alignment with the rules and, if to even look at it. Holistically, I think would help a lot.
And members, we have talked about the idea of not having two separate sets of rules, but one set of rules for sort of Makai Makai. That's all.
Yeah. And I know Deepak may have more history on it, but I know, previously, right, HCDA had owned most of the land, a lot of the land in Makai, so that maybe that was a factor.
Makai is a bigger portion of the land from later, Makai came later.
Yeah.
And then initially the Makai area had the harbors, Honolulu harbor lands, and it still has the eco parcel and the Honolulu harbor. The reason it was kept separate was because if you have to tweak the rules here and there a little bit, then you don't have to amend the whole thing for the whole district, then you have a smaller portion that you can deal with this one group. For efficacy, I should say that it was kept separately. And of course, the land, the character is a little bit different too from Makai area.
Thanks.
Thank you, Member Schreitz. Members, any other comments or questions? This one was just for information purposes, so we'll move now to public testimony. Any persons signed up for testimony? No, anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? Anyone in person wishing to testify? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Ryan Tan. Good to see you today. And we'll move now to agenda item number 4, a presentation by HCDA staff on the performance metrics for the Honua Kaha Senior Rental Housing Project located at 545 Queen Street, Honolulu, Hawaii 96813. Mr. Garrett Sasaki, Chief Financial Officer, will now present the staff report.
Morning, Chair, members. The staff reports in your packet, item number 4, just some high-level financial metrics, operating metrics. On the financial side, we looked at this, the calendar year 2024. We have a new property manager. They're taking some time to get on board, get up to speed. There's some personnel transition on that side, so we're trying to stay on top of it as much as possible. From a cash flow perspective, there was a little bit of a operating loss. There is an existing cash balance of approximately $400,000 to $500,000, so it just depleted that a little bit. 2025 should be better, so we're keeping track of that very closely. Of that cash balance, about $180,000 is available to be spent on renovations now, which is happening. So going down to operating metrics, 123 units are rented, 6 are rent ready, and I think 3 are filled as of today. Of those 6, the other 21 units, various degrees of repair needed. One just needs some touch up and it's ready to go. 10 of them need what we consider medium rehab, just to put it in that kind of bucket, and another 10 is a full rehab. Receivables, $190,000. That's a pretty big balance. When we looked at the detail, there's about 6 delinquent tenant accounts that make up 25% of that. We're working with the property manager to resolve it. And we're also checking to see if anyone was maybe moved out or deceased and their rent roll keeps going. We're trying to figure that out and we'll report that. Another 25% of this balance is unpaid subsidies, so Section 8 or some kind of voucher that just wasn't recorded. We have to follow up on those balances also. The remaining 50% are tenants that are just maybe 1 or 2 months behind. It could be timing. We'll try to get this cleaned up during, for the next update.
Thank you.
Looking forward, because that's what it's at, looking forward. On the financial metrics side, we will perform a detailed review of income expenses every month to see what's coming in and to see what's being spent. We also have a good budget for calendar year 2025, so we'll compare spending against that budget to track performance. And the last one is clean up the receivable and delinquent balances. The vacancy count is relatively high, so we're watching the application process to make sure that when a unit becomes ready to rent, it is rented immediately. And our own asset management staff is keeping track of the unit renovations to make sure they're moving as quickly as possible. All those vacant units should be rehabilitated by the end of February. And from there, require more intensive work, so it might take longer. If it's okay with the board, we'll share another update in May, so in 3 months from now, which will cover the first quarter of 2025. And hopefully have better information then. But
Yeah, Chair, before Member Sakota's question, if I can add to this. So, what kind of stands out, I think, is the number of vacancies, and frankly, we just have to catch up to that. But, after the last informational update that we presented to the board, Member Anderson reached out to me and, very, timely and very helpful. He suggested that we apply for ARPA funds for this. Because of the legwork that was done at BNF, it was approved to, for ARPA, use of ARPA money in the amount of $1 million. That request did move up, but because of timing and other issues, it was not granted. But we were contacted through representative of the governor's office, and even though ARPA money is not available, one agency had used ARPA money for recovery efforts that were since reimbursed by federal. So there is some money that's available with an agency, and there's a commitment and a reassurance by the governor's office and by the director of this, the deputy director of this agency, that that money is available to us pending, review by the deputy attorney general's office and others. So, and I think we still have to see if there's any conditions or limitations placed on the use of that money, and whether it still retains the color of ARPA money or it's other. But I think through Member Anderson's efforts, it's kind of come this way, and Chair, just wanted to thank Member Anderson for his support of that and for even suggesting that. But it looks promising, and I think by the time the next meeting comes around, we'll have a better understanding of how that money will be transferred, what conditions are placed on it, and if there's any use restrictions on it. But I think it's a good sign, and it's good progress, because I think we need that money, especially to do the medium to full rehabs on units. But thank you, Member Anderson.
Member Sakota?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for putting this together, because for me, it's just trying to get a good feel for actually how much does housing cost to provide and who's subsidizing it or where the deficiencies are coming. But one of the questions that popped up was just, how are the property and hurricane insurance handled for this building?
the insurance is paid by the AOAO. It's included in that budget. We're covered for 2025.
Okay. Has it gone up tremendously?
It went up tremendously the year before. This year was
more modest, but still substantial.
Member Sakota, Lindsay was responding, it's an increase, it was modest.
So, like Garrett mentioned, we actually saw a really big increase, last year. And so we respond, and when I say we, I mean the association, the AOAO. So not HCDA, not the limited partnership, but the AOAO, as a whole, of which, the limited partnership, is an owner. So the AOAO increased the maintenance fees to kind of, respond to that big insurance, premium increase. We did see another, of course, increase in getting insurance for this year, this 2025 year, but it wasn't as big as I think some of the other condos on Oahu saw. I think I heard like triple or something in Hawaii Kai where it just went way above. So I think we were fortunate with Honoakaha this year. It did grow, but not even to the level that I expected. But of course, that was, before the mainland fires. It was before, I think, a lot of things have happened in that insurance market. So I would assume that next year, when we go to get insurance again, it'll continue to increase, and who knows, how big that increase will be. But like Garrett mentioned, the budget is for the AOAO, the budget does accommodate for that.
Okay, so we still have, as the HCDA, we still have financial pressure to increase rents, correct?
So the limited partnership, yes, the limited partnership bears the responsibility to pay their share of the maintenance fees, to the AOAO. And like I said, those maintenance fees did increase. They are projected to continue to increase. So yes, the limited partnership, will face this pressure as those maintenance fees continue to increase. I think right now the rents, just about breaks even, when you have a lot of rehab for the units that of course are getting more expensive, then it kind of dips down. But yes, the rents, are the only source of revenue for the limited partnership. So yes.
And remember, Sakota, there is economic pressure to continually increase the rents. But yet at the same time, as you're aware, we have to maintain those increases in a reasonable amount. So they've been going up, I think 5% annually. In the future, if we sort of catch up a little bit, maybe there might be some years where that increase might be less than 5%. But we definitely want to keep it within affordable amounts, because the population at the Honoakaha Senior Resident project, they're very sensitive to rent increases because of their limited income.
Yeah.
And that's why I appreciate the financials, just because it really demonstrates the financial pressure to provide reasonably priced rental housing.
Yeah, and I think, again, if with the funds that we can get through, Member Anderson's effort and through working with that other state agency, I think it'll put more units online, hopefully quickly, and then that'll take some of the pressure off rent increases.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Members, any other comments or questions for the staff? I have a brief question. So when we do the new rental agreements, right, somebody leaves and then somebody comes in, is everything still bundled in the rent, like electricity and all of that? So that's like a permanent feature of this project.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think the rent, because it's part of the LIHTC program,
Yep.
it has to be affordable. So they bundle the building. I think the AOAO pays for the water. It's
Yep.
just, that's the way the building is. And then the electricity is 1 meter for the elderly side. So
Yeah.
that's just
That's what I
included.
thought,
Yeah.
A secondary question is, it looks like we're, maybe by the end of the year, we'll be cash flow positive. And we've collected all of the P&L and financial information that might be helpful to sell this asset. Is there any progress in thinking through divesting HCDA of this asset?
I think, for at the board's direction, I think it's always something that's on the table. The question is who, and whether someone is willing to do it. I think what's good is. And not to sort of assume this, but. In the property manager, we have Mark Development Inc., who also owns Nale. At least there's a person in there that's familiar with senior rental projects. Now is becoming familiar with this senior rental project, and if there's a possibility of sale. This person understands the project better than anybody coming in.
Yeah.
Just off the street to sort of bid for it or to offer something, so that's an advantage, but I mean, it's never off the table.
Sure. Yeah, just speaking for myself as a board member, not on behalf of the board. I think it is really important for HCDA to move to divesting from this asset. Just because of the substantial staff overhead that goes into dealing with it. We are an agency that should not be managing a senior rental facility. Obviously, it wasn't our fault, right? And most of the people around in the room today were not involved in the beginnings of this project, which I think was a mistake from the start. But we should do everything we can, I think, to bring it to a speedy resolution, ideally by working with a partner to divest. And so I'm glad to hear that, obviously there are people who potentially have a good understanding of this project and could take it on. And I would hope that with the information that we're collecting and the progress we're making to renovating the units, the end point of that is a day when this no longer appears on our agendas. Yes. But thank you to the staff. I say all of that because I appreciate the heroic effort that the staff undertakes to make this project viable. And you do such a great job at something that's not in your job description, so thank you.
Yeah, and I think all the efforts to lease up, tenant up, in the end, it's gonna make the financials look a lot better.
Yep. Cool. Board members, any other comments or questions? If not, public testimony, anyone signed up to testify?
None, Chair.
None present wishing to testify. We'll move to the last agenda item. Agenda item number 4, the report of the executive director, monthly report and other status reports, and the approved permit applications that did not require HRS 206E-5.6 public hearings.
Thank you, Chair. The executive director's report is at tab 5, and in the interest of time, I just wanna just mention this. So this Saturday, related to the item on the dog park, this Saturday, the agency is holding a blessing and grand opening of the Kolowalu Park Dog Park and the other improvements at Kolowalu Park. It begins at 9 AM.
The blessing is at 9.
9.
Opening
Yeah.
is at 9:30.
So come at 9. All of the Kakaako board members are invited. We'll have some light refreshments, a blessing, and just have a good time for the families and our residents to enjoy the park. Thank you.
Awesome.
That's it.
Members, any comments or questions? Member Straits.
Just wanted to kind of note, I guess, on the record, because I had mentioned this offline after our last meeting, that is in regards to the Kolowalu Park and how I think the focus on amenities that are unique, like toddler park, and have been wildly successful, is a good thing, and that I would encourage you to coordinate with the surrounding businesses to see that, come across any net gains in their sales to further justify these kind of capital improvements and taking on significant insurance and managing going into that. So just put that out there.
I think it's a good point, member Strides. I think maybe after this dog park blessing and grand opening, I think there'll be a lot. I think surrounding business owners will see the sort of positive benefits of all the equipment and the improvements we've made to Kolowalu Park, and maybe there'll be some voluntary contributions to help with them.
Just to build on member Straits' point, maybe it's a matter of just interviewing, like HCDA doing like an interview video with some small business owners and saying like, have you noticed any improvements in people coming in? And if we can capture a few of those stories, that might be a way to tell it without having to gather a ton of data.
Yeah.
Even anecdotal stuff would be helpful.
Sure. Good.
All right, Vice Chair Ishii.
Thank you, Chair. You know, I just had a question for Director Nakamoto. You know, the capital improvements, you had the Stream Access Road, is that where is that?
So, this was a CIP item, the funds were just released. So, the access road is gonna be from the, residential side of the Hia district, Law Street. It'll be a access road, to allow for small equipment to come in and do, stream cleanup. The stream cleanup is
I
important.
guess, Director Nakamoto, sorry. Why is it in the Kakaako meeting? No,
Oh, sorry, yeah, that was a mistake. It shouldn't be in there.
okay, I just wanted to clarify that because it's in the Kakaako meetings. So I just want to make sure our records are clean.
Sure, understood.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Vice Chair Ishii. Members, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, last call for public testimony. Anyone signed up to testify? Anyone on Zoom wishing to testify? No one in person wishing to testify? We'll move now. Thank you, everyone, for attending these meetings. We will now conclude our business for today. The meeting is adjourned. The time is now 11:53 a.m.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.